would you take it away and lead us through education and planning, please?
Indeed, I will, Chairman Martin. Thank you. So I bring this the meeting for the Education and Planning Committee to order on November 3rd at 4:30 p.m. And to open up, I'd like to ask if there's any, if everybody's reviewed the minutes, if there's any changes, additions, deletions, etc. Anything at all? Hearing none, we'll move on and go into the enrollment report with Dr. Urbatus.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to provide an update to the enrollment report that you received as of October 22nd. And the update reflects numbers as of Friday, October 29th. There was no change to full-time headcount and FTE. Part-time headcount also remains virtually the same. However, FTE increased from being down 5% to being down 2.1%. So the needle moved in the right direction relative to part-time students. Gemini numbers have shifted. So as of October 29th, headcount enrollment is up 4.8% and FTE is up 5.1%. So overall total credit enrollment, excluding non-credit state aidable, is down 2.3% and FTE is down 3.7%. Adding in non-credit state aidable, overall total enrollment is down 1.7% and FTE is down 3.6%. So I will stop and ask if you have any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Urbatus?
Yes, I have one, just one quick question. So that is it, you believe, for Gemini, or do you see any more numbers up?
They continue to trickle in even past the deadline, and past the deadline for us to submit our official enrollment to Suny as well. It's been a pretty common trend, but the numbers, the Gemini numbers, will not flex too much either way at this point.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I want to ask Dr. Nye if he would like me to share the Suny Community College enrollment data, or hold on that until December.
Oh, if you feel like you want to do it now, please go ahead. It's you know, we know it's not the 100% accurate, but it's pretty darn good news. Go ahead.
It's not official, but it's close to being deemed official. And so Deborah shared her and her team put together the following, and I'm going to share it on my screen with you. Can everyone see that?
Here we go. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So this provides a synopsis of overall Suny enrollment by sector. So you'll see the doctoral degree granting institutions are down 0.8% in comparison to fall 20. The comprehensive colleges are down 9%. The colleges of technology are down 9.6%, and community colleges are down 7.8%. So the overall change is 10% down based on the change in 1 year. I also want to note that Tompkins Cortland Community College has not submitted data last year or this year. They were inaccurately reporting data in the past, and I'm not sure what's going on with them at this point. So this gets more granular relative to community college fall enrollment from fall 19 to fall 21. I'm not going to go into this at this point in time. I can certainly provide this information to you. What I want to show you though is the actual rankings. Again, unofficial. And I also want to point out that the Fashion Institute of Technology is included with community colleges. But they also grant baccalaureate and master's degrees. So if we were to exclude FIT, we would rank third again in fall enrollment, similar to fall 20.
Wow. Wow.
And the
Impressive.
other thing I want to point out is Cayuga Community College shows an enrollment decline of almost 42%. We believe that there is a data reporting error there. That seems too drastic.
This is Jeff. At the top of the graph, it showed Jamestown.
Yes,
What's going on with them?
I don't know. I don't work there. I'm going to the Chief Enrollment Officers meeting November 16th through the 17th, and perhaps we'll find more information out about Jamestown.
Yeah, it just
That's how
seems as much as Cayuga seems way out of character. So does Jamestown.
Right. I don't know if Dr. Nye has any information relative to Jamestown.
No,
From the president.
Deborah and I were talking earlier today, and it's not just Jamestown. If you want to look at, let's say at North Country, if you look at those two colleges, Jamestown and North Country, they're in separate ends of the state, but they're in very rural areas, very isolated and by themselves. There is nothing else there. There is no other competition there in terms of that. And then number two, if you look at Jamestown's numbers from last year, they took a big hit. And so you're going to see some of the schools that took a really big hit didn't do quite so bad this time. But if you take those numbers back to 2019, you're going to see a big difference. And those are the two kind of things we could kind of speculate without knowing there may be an anomaly in the reporting, or they have some secret we need to pry out of them.
Right. So here's Jamestown so 2019, they were down 0.6%. Fall 20, they were down almost 23%. So that's
so they
an
got half of
excellent
it
point.
back. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Carol,
And I'm glad I don't work there. I'm happy here, by the way.
Carol, I have a request.
Yes, Donna.
Would you mind if I shared those slides at the NYCCT Board of Directors meeting this Saturday?
I will inquire of Deborah if that would be appropriate.
Okay,
And I will have Dr. Nye let you know. How is that, Trustee?
that is
Bell?
good.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Abatis, there's a CCRC article that just came. CCRC stands for Community College Research Center. It's at Columbia College for Columbia University, the Teachers College. And it goes over a lot of the factors that are influencing these numbers and kind of shows some trends. And I just shared it with the rest of the board, so they have it in their inboxes. But I understand you're going to actually be talking about some of these trends next month. Do you want to just give a quick prelude to that?
Actually, Dr. Ortloff will be giving a presentation to the trustees at the December meeting that will touch upon some of the trends noted in the CCRC blog.
Great.
And we wanted you to read the article before the December meeting so you understand the linkage to the trend data.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I got that to everybody. Sophie, I think I got your email right. So,
yes, I think so.
hey,
Get your email.
okay,
Thanks so
great.
much.
Good. Anything else for Dr. Abatis? Nothing? We'll move on to the retention update. Dr. Covington, newly elected Dr. Covington.
Hi, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen. Just give some very quick information relevant to this retention update. Can everyone see my screen? Yes?
Affirmative.
Yes. So in regards to the fall 2021 campaign, long story short, the outreach was to first generation students. We called 2 cohorts, incoming students, and we also had some late registrants that we reached out to as well. In regards to the total number of students, it was 407. And I'm very happy to say that, as usual for our core campaign, we had a diverse group of participants who were willing to make phone calls. So 19 representatives, including individuals from main campus, our campus center, shout out to our college cabinet, as well as our board of trustees. The campaign took place from September 7th to October 1st. And in regards to the theme, very quickly, in addition to adding a personal touch, outreach focused on informing students of support services, course preview availability, in-person and virtual resources, social distance protocol, and emergency services. In regards to all of the students who were reached out to, we connected with about 34% of them. As we can imagine, for a core campaign, when students are seeing numbers that they're not familiar with, many of them feel like it's spam, so they may not pick up. 65% we were unable to connect. And a variety of themes came up. So majority of the students reported doing well, even in light of the different changes that are taking place here pertaining to their academic experience. Some withdrew because of financial concerns. We had a basketball player who tore his ACL. Some students have expressed that they prefer in-person learning. I think things pertaining to COVID-19 continue to be a struggle for some students, but once again, majority of our students reported that they're doing well. And we also continue to have students who are balancing their work and their school struggles. As you know, as the Board of Trustees, we have a chapter of Phi Beta Kappa here at FLCC. In regards to Phi Beta Kappa has several star chapter levels. The highest star chapter level that an institution can get is a 5-star chapter level. FLCC is at a 1-star chapter level because historically, at least since I've been here, many of our students are balancing work as well as their academic pursuits, and a lot of them don't have time to be as engaged as they would like to. Regardless, I'm very happy to share that we continue to have all New York academic award winners in our chapter of Phi Beta Kappa, and we've also had opportunity to take our students to the Catalyst Phi Beta Kappa National Conference. So that's pretty much just the update I wanted to share pertaining to the core campaign, but I do want to make sure that I open up the floor to see if there's any questions, comments, or concerns. Oh, I didn't see Sarah. Shout out to Sarah Whiffen because she was the person who created the form stack and sent the data. Thank you, Sarah. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns relevant to the student core campaign for this fall?
Any questions for Dr. Covington? And I know some of the trustees participated. Any impressions or from the calls that you made?
This is Joan. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed when I did make contact. One of the things that Sim did mention, and you saw in the report, it's very hard to make contact with the students. If you really don't catch them when they answer the phone, you're probably not going to get a hold of them. That was the only drawback. But otherwise, it's very nice talking to them, hearing their views, things like that.
This is Rob. If I could say one thing, I was one of the callers too, and been doing the calls since we started them. You're right, Joan. The percentage of students you get that you contact are small. It's in the 10s or 20%. But if each one of us that made calls made a contact that created something that allowed that student to continue forward, and I had 2. So I'm sure others who have called had things where the student reached back out, you were able to connect them. It's worth it. It doesn't seem like it when you look at the big picture and you go, well, if only 10 or 20% probably 20 is probably high, are the ones you get connected to. But think about it, when we think about our numbers for retention, for us to get what we call the true band of excellence for retention, we need to go up about 5 percentage points. It's only about, the last time I looked about, it's, Sarah, you might remember this number from my discussion with John, it's somewhere between 60 and 90 students. So if you start to think about it and scope it or scale it, these things do make a difference for us. But you have to look at it in a perspective that's different than normal. Thank you for my editorial.
Donna?
I'd like to follow up with what Joan and Rob both said. I was surprised at the people that I did reach always end up seeming very grateful that you called. In fact, I've had people apologize that they didn't pick up sooner or they didn't understand what the call was about, but they were very glad when they had the conversation. Even if they were feeling okay with things and didn't need any assistance. So I still think it's a very worthwhile effort.
Yeah, I think to be as corny as possible, I think it's definitely a hallmark channel experience. And what I mean by that is, for many of the students, it's like a pleasant surprise. Like, oh, that's so nice. That's what they say on the phone. Like, they're kind of shocked that we actually called to do like a check-in, like mom at camp. How's everything going at camp, right? So for them, it's like this positive experience, and they appreciate it. So the last thing I will say is that if you don't remember, the core campaign, in addition to the fact that we started it before the Suny recommendation, Suny has also recommended that colleges engage in a core campaign. So I would say that we were ahead of our time in continuing best practice in support of the system in which our institution is housed. So, any other questions, comments, or concerns? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Covington. Moving on, we have 3 resolutions to approve administrative appointments. And Ms. Whiffen, we'll start with you.
Thanks. So it's my distinct pleasure to put forth Jeanette Arouk for administrative appointment. As you can imagine, the role of the Student Health Office has been front and center over the last 18 months. And under Jeanette's leadership as director, she has been integral to keeping the FLCC community safe. She has put in countless hours and has helped spearhead the college's COVID-19 response. She's been instrumental in helping the college move to secure timely MD for our students, and also in the development of the upcoming Center for Student Wellbeing. I'm very happy as her supervisor that she's on my team, and I'm pleased to present her appointment to you.
Any questions?
I have a question for Sarah.
Sure.
What does she is accountable for her own actions? What does that mean?
So, you know, sometimes when we're in positions, we make mistakes or we do something that may or may not be what we should be doing. And she always takes responsibility and, you know, says, oh, this is why I did that. And this is why I might have moved in that direction. And always is right there to say, this is, you know, if I made that error, I will own up to it and make sure it never happens again.
So I see that in other recommendations. Is that something that's important to an evaluation?
I think it is. As a supervisor, you know, we all make mistakes. And I think owning that and saying, you know, gosh, sorry for that. Or here's why I made that mistake and why I won't make it in the future, because now I understand the system, the process, the person, whatever it might be. I always find that's a very valuable personal attribute.
Great, thank you.
Sure. So I'm also happy that I can present Markeitha Shelton to administrative appointment as a professional academic advisor in our Academic Advising Career and Transfer Service office. And as you saw from Dr. Urbatus's report, that office, along with other enrollment management offices, have been very busy doing wonderful work, bringing our students into the college and keeping them here. Markeitha predominantly works with our computer science and technology students. She's a member of our curriculum committee, and she is a wonderful ambassador to FLCC, to our students and families, and is one of those people that students and families, when you talk with them, very much appreciative of Markeitha's personableness and her always willing to go above and beyond to do the extra thing for a student, whatever that might be. So I'm pleased I can share her appointment with you. And are there any questions about Markeitha?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yep.
Dr. Orloff. Up next for Nicole.
Hi, this is Michelle Plochek. I'd like to just chime in here. Dr. Ortloff is out sick, and so we'd like to, if possible, still have you approve the administrative appointment tonight based on the terms of the PA contract. And you'll see in your packet that Dr. Ortloff has recommended this administrative appointment without reservation. We would like to defer the actual presentation of this appointment to the December board meeting, when both Nicole and Dr. Orloff could be here to publicly present it.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll do that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Before I move off of resolutions, that I have had a couple of questions from trustees, and I just wanted to throw out. One we got was about, why is it 5 years on a probation? Would it be 3? Could it be 4? Could it be 2? Why 5?
It could be, that's a collective bargaining activity, and we should talk about that under collective bargaining activity.
Okay, just. The other was on these reviews, as this is an academic institution, should academic qualifications be included for the board to look at when we look at these?
I don't see why not, and I'll let any of the team chime in. If that's important, then yes, we should provide those qualifications as part of where they've received their education. Any input from anyone? Michelle, anyone else?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
Sorry, Michelle, let me, the question was, in that we're an academic institution, should we also on these resolutions reflect the academic qualifications for these candidates?
I think that the resolutions and the appointment memos certainly could address a little bit more about what the requirements of the position are and how the person fulfills those requirements.
I think what Trustee Cushman is asking is in them, if they have where they, for instance, took their education or any certification skills that they would have. So for instance, CPA, if you're in finance or things of that nature, along with your education. I think that's what you're saying, Trustee.
Yes, I believe so.
Perhaps we could have the person submit their resume as part of.
Might be more than we need, but just thinking a summary on the letter. So,
okay.
We
yes, I just, this is Donna. I just wouldn't want the person to think that their current job was in jeopardy by having to resubmit a resume. This is an evaluation of their performance as opposed to, a hire. So,
right.
Sarah, you still on the line?
Yep.
He's muted.
She might not.
Oh, I'm here.
And Sarah, you put together the academic catalog. Doesn't the academic catalog have qualifications for individuals?
It does. Yep.
Okay.
I think that would be good. I think a full resume is more than anyone needs for this. It's just.
So, maybe we can provide what's provided in the academic catalog for the individual.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you all for those presentations. Moving on to strategic thought presentation. our the always wonderful Ms. Lenore Friend, and Ms. Kristen Arcardi, and Matt Stever.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to share our presentation. It is all together in one, so that we can move through these quickly. And I hope that you are seeing it. If you're not seeing it, let me know.
We are.
Okay, great. So thank you for your time this afternoon. Kristen, Matt, and I are presenting together to help show the relationships among our areas of focus. I'll start with a broad overview of the public relations portion. So as you know, PR is about creating an overall favorable image of the college, and that's the starting point for marketing to develop a pool of prospective students and admissions to convert them to enrolled students. So PR and communications involves a wide range of tools, starting with traditional press releases and pitches and responses to media requests. FLCC has also for years maintained a relationship with Finger Lakes News Radio, and I'll speak more to that later. These are typically referred to as earned media in that you have to work to get their attention. In more recent years, we've expanded into electronic newsletters, which is a form of owned media. These are tools where you have the control, you can target your audience, and you can get data that helps you understand your audience in a way that traditional media can't. So we have employee newsletters because employees are some of our best brand ambassadors. School districts are another critical audience. I can tell by what our readers click on that they see the college as a resource. So they're looking to us for speakers, field trip opportunities, professional development, and to the extent that we provide those, then we're maintaining our image with them. Community members have historically clicked most on events. And so this newsletter focused on events allows us to directly show how the college is living the part of its mission dealing with cultural vitality. The Laker magazine, it's a traditional college vehicle to keep in touch with alumni who are also great brand ambassadors. The community also engages with FLCC through social media, Finger Lakes TV, op-eds, and how we manage critical issues like COVID-19. A key way to maintain your positive image is to show relevance. So we took advantage of opportunities to do that during the pandemic. For example, Professor Robert Brown has been teaching his course in historic pandemics for several years, but because it had new relevance over the last year, we had a lot of success in promoting him as an expert last winter. And with PR, you also want to play to your strengths. FLCC is increasingly known for its research. Examples of recent publicity include a feature I wrote for Community College Daily about the Fisher Project and some publicity around one of our NSF grants on Spectrum News. But COVID has also brought some PR challenges. Our newsletters, while still meeting or exceeding industry averages for open rates, have been hurt somewhat by the email fatigue, which I'm sure you're all feeling as well. So that's something I'll be watching as we come out of the pandemic. For now, I'm trying to keep our newsletters shorter and use more images to cope with that lack of bandwidth that everyone is experiencing. So taking a broad look at the media landscape we're dealing with, the most prominent trend is the fracturing of media, as you can see in the chart from the Pew Research Center. You'll see that TV is losing a lot of ground as being a primary resource for people. In fact, there is no longer any one place where a majority of Americans get their news anymore. And so the upshot of this is that you can't ignore any single channel, and that's why we still do those radio shows monthly, because that is still an important outlet for a lot of people. You'll see 26% of people still get their news from the radio. I'd like to address social media briefly because it's an increasingly important player. It's a good tool for helping support your brand. One of our most popular posts, which you see here, dealt with the grounds crew planting wildflowers so that we could mow less. It really spoke to our brand as being an environmentally aware institution, so that caused it to be a very popular post. But we have to be realistic about the downsides of social media, including the constant changes to these platforms, the emphasis on paid posts, and negative comments. So what works best in social media? Definitely authentic content. So I'm showing here some screenshots of data from some of our Facebook posts. The orange bars reflect something called reach, and the purple bars reflect engagement, which I think is a more meaningful metric because it's about what people actually do. Do they comment? Do they like? Do they take some action? And you can see the wildflower post, which is the second one down, got way more engagement than anything, around it. I'm also showing in the lower image the snapshot of reporting of a post that was boosted. In other words, we paid for it in order to get wider reach. And you can see how strongly Facebook prioritizes anything that you pay for. So we really have to think about social media almost as paid advertising. So getting back to the concept of hitting all channels, because none of them is singularly important. It means developing more content and repurposing it in multiple ways. You have hopefully seen our story on Ivan Castillo Serrano, who immigrated from Mexico and essentially learned English while he was also learning to be a nurse. So you can see we used him in the Laker, we used him in our newsletters, we used him here in a blog, which was linked to other social media. So we have had a lot of good comments on it. It's been a really great story. And it's great to have those stories out there. But what we really want with this multi-channel approach is to get people back to our owned media, primarily our website. So with traditional and social media being somewhat unpredictable, you really want to get your audience in a place where you have the control over the images and the information that they're getting. And now you've probably heard marketing talk a little bit about a content management system, which I hope we move to soon because it will certainly help PR, and I can explain why. So right now, to put Ivan's story, which you can see in the Laker on the website, it's a manual process given the architecture of our website. So it makes it hard to refresh the material on our pages when it's a manual process, whereas a CMS allows you to import content once and then automate all the different places that it appears on the website. So in a figurative sense, Ivan checks a lot of boxes for us. He studied nursing, which is an increasingly important program. He's an alumnus, and he used our ASAP services to succeed. So if we had a CMS, I would import a story and the quotes and the photos and all the parts to it once, and then I would literally check boxes that say nursing, that say alumni, that say student services, and articles and images about Ivan would spread out to those pages, and then they'd be refreshed when other articles came along that covered those topics. And what that means is that repeat visitors to your website are seeing something new, something different, and maybe something they've seen in other media in a community that clicks with them. So that's one reason I'm excited about a CMS. And so that a CMS would really make the most of that natural overlap that you see between PR and marketing, where content used primarily in earned media can be repurposed for your own owned media and vice versa. So I will pause here and see if there's any questions before I hand it over with Kristen to get a little bit more into the marketing end of it.
Santa?
Yep. So is FLCC implementing a CMS program?
I'm going to let Kristen talk a little bit about that in her section. I think we're doing the preliminary work toward that, but I'll let her speak to it.
Thank you.
Chairman Martin?
Yes, Laura, yes, thanks very much for your presentation. The social media channels, what are the channels that in fact we're using?
We're using primarily Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Okay.
We also put our photos on Flickr.
And how about LinkedIn? Is that useful at all, or is there a pathway on LinkedIn?
We do use LinkedIn as well, and we have a fairly good following on LinkedIn.
Thanks very much.
Final question. The CMS is typically used also with education, right? I mean, it's used for coursework and for, do we have one, we have a learning management system. Do we have a content management system?
No, not the way that Lenore's talking about. And
Yeah.
I think I'd like to have Kristen talk about that. I think she's going to talk about it in her presentation.
Yeah, so
Right.
I'll we'll all stay, I'll stay on, and we'll all be here so that if there's other questions about PR, we can move on from there. But I'll let Kristen take it from here, and I'll keep advancing the pages for Kristen.
Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you, Lenore, for advancing the slides on my behalf. And I will, when we get to the website slide, certainly entertain and discuss the CMS project as well. So please proceed, Lenore. Okay, so that's me, Kristen Nicardi, Director of Marketing and Enrollment Communications. I wanted to take you down a journey to look at 4 main topics that pertain to the marketing department and what we are responsible for. We'll take a look at what we accomplished in fiscal year 21 and then look ahead for our plans and goals for fiscal year 22. Next slide, please. So we will start with talking about the website. On the left, just highlight some of the projects that we've been involved in this year, and the right, projects that we are anticipating taking on this coming year. The first 2 bullets for the COVID health update and the admissions visit page were really due to the onset of the pandemic, where we had to very quickly spin up some new pages to communicate our new policies and procedures surrounding COVID. Both of these pages have evolved tremendously over the past year to make sure that students and prospective students had the most up-to-date information. The visit page was critical in communicating all the important ways that Matt's team reimagined how to connect with FLCC during the time where we had to be virtual. And so that is a page that's been evolving as well. We did work this year on the academics homepage and then improving constantly our area of study pages, making sure that those pages are relevant to students who are looking specifically for programmatic information. And we worked with the FLCC Foundation and also Workforce and Career to support the transitions that they've had away from third-party platforms and onto new solutions as well. We were able to present our concept for our website redesign and content management project to the FLCC community last year. And then also you welcomed me in September to discuss this project in detail at the board meeting as well. So at present, our team is engaged in what we're calling the research phase of a possible web redesign and implementation of a CMS system. In November, we will be taking on discovery meetings with various content management system platforms to get to know and to identify the people, technology, and financial resources that we would need to move this project forward. We'll be talking with administration and trying to give as much information as we can in the decision-making process there. Everything that Lenore discussed in her presentation is absolutely a really great way to think about a content management system. It allows us to automate a lot of our content. So to be able to take one piece of content and permeate it throughout the site in really interesting ways. It will allow us to better integrate with other platforms that we have. So our CRM system that admissions uses, course catalog systems, and develop better, more automated integrations there as well. I'm sure this will be a topic of conversation into the future, and so I'm happy to field questions along the way. Our team will also be looking at continually improving our area of study pages. There was a big push at the end of the year to discuss modalities and to make sure that students really understood how they could consume their coursework, whether it be in person, through the high flex format, hybrid, and sort of all of the variations that we have in between. We're always looking at improving our admissions and financial aid pages, and we'll be looking at new populations to make sure that we're serving our online and adult learners, and that they have a place to go on the web that they feel is really answering their questions and helping them see their path forward. So maybe I'll pause there since there is interest in the CMS, and if I can answer any specific questions before I move on to advertising.
Donna?
Donna.
So Kristen and Lenore, thank you very much for all of this. With the CMS system, will that also help us to be able to specifically target individuals? For example, if we want to focus on getting more students enrolled in the gaming program or music recording or viticulture, and being able to use the social media tools better, or is the CMS system specifically related to our own internal owned media?
So that's a very good question. So our CMS system is sort of the back end that powers how the content is put in so that it displays publicly to you. So So the simple answer is yes. The content management system allows us to put and author content, which then is accessible through our public website. We can then use specific landing pages on our website to promote any number of academic programs, information for adult students, online students, and have a really specific place that we send them so that they get the information they need.
But it isn't, how can I put this? Sort of a cold call kind of approach where we seek out places where we know people who are interested in viticulture already are.
I think what you might be referring to is our advertising tactics. So making sure that our advertising campaigns are trying to reach the right audiences, because what those will do will then be to draw people into very specific places to our website. So not just sending people to the homepage, but sending folks who are interested in viticulture to the viticulture page so that they can learn more and then request more information from us. And that's our goal in our advertising funnel as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will move on to advertising. Lenore, next slide, please. So this slide demonstrates the measurements and the tools that we use to gauge the effectiveness of our advertising campaigns, specifically in the digital space. Our ultimate goal here is to drive traffic to our website, and then from there to inspire a next action, whatever is appropriate for that student. So if they're ready to plan their campus visit, that's available to them. If they're ready to apply, we make it easy to find where our application is. If they're ready to learn about our various programs, they'll be able to do that too. So these are all the tools and the measurements that we use to sort of gauge how a campaign is performing. Next slide, please. This slide shows our aggregate data. So this is for an entire fiscal year, all added in sum. I break out this information with much more detail in our strategic enrollment planning meetings. So by campaign, by semester, but this is really the aggregate data. And we use this to make on the fly and on the spot changes to our advertising campaigns. So we're changing our tactics, we're changing our messages, our audiences based on how a particular ad campaign is performing. We're constantly sort of tweaking those dials to make sure that we are getting the click-through rates that we want and the post-click conversions. So the story that this data tells us right now is that we were able to inspire over 27,000 users to come to our app, to come to our website after being exposed to one of our digital ads, and that we were able to convince 600 people to submit some sort of form on our website. And by a form, I mean some mechanism through a visit form, through our request more form, to be able to give us their name and their contact information to go into our CRM, and then allowing Matt's team to do all the great work that they do, cultivating and nurturing those relationships within the CRM system. We also had our brand awareness campaigns going on, which I've talked about before. We had video commercials and audio that are out there in the more traditional sense. We utilize local, cable, and streaming services for those as well. And we were able to partner with the PBS In-Depth series to promote our viticulture programs as well. And to me, the most exciting part of having this data is this marks 1 year of benchmark data that we officially have. So now we'll be able to do year-over-year comparisons of our advertising performance with our Digital Hive vendor, who we use to promote our digital campaigns. So that's a huge step for us, and I'm very excited that we will be able to do some comparisons going forward. Okay, next slide. And this is what we have on the docket for this coming year. We're really looking at focusing on the tactics that have been performing really well. So we know that retargeting ads are really important. Those are those creepy ads that follow you magically, auto-magically after you come to our website. We are utilizing Google search much more readily. Google has some great products now where they can customize the ad experience based on what you search for. So we're utilizing that as well. We've found that video has much more higher click-through and open rates. So we'll be incorporating more video into our ad placements, in addition to making sure that we are utilizing all the great stories coming out of Lenore's shop in terms of student testimonials and alumni success stories in our ad placements. And then again, we'll be bolstering our targeting to our online and adult student population. There is a working group that's been formed through SEC that'll be looking at the adult student experience. And so we're really excited to have a really robust discussion about the needs of that population and make sure that we are messaging from a website and an advertising perspective that new audience for us. Okay, let's move on. So despite the pandemic environment and our less populated campus and the fact that everyone's been in masks, our contract photographer this year was really able to capture some stunning photos of the FLCC experience. We were able to capture campus life, academics, faculty, athletics, and also everyday moments. And these are photos that both Lenore and my team need to be able to promote the college on the website and then also through print pieces as well. So Lenore, I have one more slide of just example photos that we can show everybody. And then the next one is our print photography in action. So these are just some examples of how we use these photos to promote the college. These are print pieces that we created in collaboration with Matt's team for travel and also for mailings to all of the people in our database as well. And then I am on to my last slide. So finally, we will talk about enrollment communications, and this is really where the areas of marketing and admissions collaborate on the most. We're able to curate branded messages by way of email and text messages to our prospective student pool, to our applicants, to our admitted students. And this past year, we sent over 90 different messages that focused on a variety of next steps. And this year, we will continue to expand this list and identify additional target populations to reach out to. So talking to people who have raised their hands about specific programs of interest, student athletes, people who are interested in our campus centers, and then also making sure that we are engaging the people in our pool who apply early and are in our cycle and in our funnel for quite a long time before a semester starts. So making sure we're messaging them along the way to keep them engaged. So the people in our Slate CRM system really have raised their hand at some point to say that they're interested in us and they are a very captive audience. This is crucial in sustaining their interest and helping them through the enrollment funnel, in addition to the wonderful work that happens in the admissions team to curate and cultivate those students to hopefully enroll for a particular semester. So before I pass you off to Matt, I will also pause and take additional questions and comments. Thank you for your time.
This is Jeff. A couple of questions. The first is, as you develop this CMS system, is this being done in coordination with, the IT operation for the college? I mean, is there integration between this and the other systems that we have in the school?
Yeah, so we are in, I should preface, we are in the very early stages of discussing this project, needing to have additional communications and conversations with administration about the viability of really engaging in this full force. But yes, absolutely. In order to integrate some of our other softwares into the website, we will definitely need IT support along the way. And so we will be we would at the point in time where we execute this, reach out to many stakeholders to really do a needs assessment of how folks can help us with this project.
Okay, and the second question is, as you develop all of this, and especially in the marketing and advertising, is to what extent does the college solicit partnerships so that our marketing and advertising appears on other people's website? Not just the link, but the actual advertising and marketing. And I'll give you an example that I guess I can think of is the county's economic development program has its own website. when people open that website, do they see any advertising or marketing of FLCC? And how do we go about creating those kind of partnerships?
So thank you for the question. Much of our digital strategy is trying to get our messages in front of the right audience. And so by using Google and some other platforms, our ads will appear in places that students are likely to be based on sort of the algorithmic AI version of where they are sort of telling us and expecting a high school student to be or an adult student to be. So in some cases, our ads will appear on websites through what is called the Google Search Network, and they would decide and say, okay, this content on this particular webpage seems relevant to our audience, so we will place an FLCC ad there. And then conversely, we can reach out and do strategic partnerships with a FingerLakesTimes.com, for example, and say specifically we want our ads placed there. But we find from a budget perspective and trying to be good stewards of the resources we have, the behavioral type of ads work more effectively in that case. But it is something that we can explore and that we have in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Questions for Kristen? Appears that we made great progress in this area past year. Definitely see it.
Okay, thank you. I will turn it over to Matt Stever.
Matt, you're on mute.
You'd think after a year and a half we'd get used to doing this.
You never do.
Every day. Kristen, thank you so much for the tee up and all of the lead in, and Lenore as well. And Lenore, thank you for driving. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for affording me some time to share a little bit about our recruitment strategy. Next slide, Lenore. So I'm going to cover a basic overview of our recruitment activity between the months of September 2020 and September 2021. And what you're seeing here is a mix of the four primary buckets of strategy, if you will, which go into our recruitment campaign, comprising of on-site, online, those activities. Our Slate CRM, I'm so happy we touched upon a few things so far. I'll be able to tie a little bit of it together. And then a little bit about the collaborative work that our three groups do together, Kristen, Lenore, and I, but other people on campus as well. So next slide, Lenore. So in terms of on-site recruitment, we have been open for shop since last August. We were one of the very first community colleges that had our doors open across the state. We did it very carefully. This primarily comprised of individual appointments. But what you're looking at here is the primary mix that we did for on-site. And it was really slow last year at first. And as the year went on, as Zoom fatigue set in, and as vaccines were implemented into the population, we were able to do more. So a lot of what you're looking at was back-ended. So while the individual appointments happened all year, the Saturday sessions really took off later in the summer, and they were more of a yield campaign. But you can see here 276 individual appointments. Those were folks that came in, we met with them one-on-one, and we gave a private custom tour of our campus to those students. It was very labor intensive, but they're extremely popular, which we learned as the year went on. Next slide, Lenore. So this is the mix of online activity that we conducted. And I think the last time we met, admissions was going through the process of standing up all this online activity, figuring out creative ways to meet with students because we couldn't do much face-to-face. But here we see the mix that we've run. As I mentioned, these became less popular as the year went on. In particular, if you look at the webinar series line, at the beginning of the pandemic, we were hosting 30 to 40 students per webinar, and that trickled down to basically single digits. So essentially, we're backing off that activity. And it's something we're hearing from the districts, and I'm sure we all feel it ourselves in our daily lives. It's not something that we really like to do anymore. But one of the things I'd like to call out is if you look at the individual appointments, those continue to be extremely popular. So we run those Monday through Friday, and they fill up almost entirely. They're very flexible. They're very good for adult learners. They're popular for folks that are farther away. And it's a great opportunity for us to meet one-on-one in a captive audience. We've got a video platform that we use. And they are something that we will continue to hold on to moving forward, probably for the foreseeable future. The two events in the middle you see, Fall Academic Discovery Sessions and Spring Accepted Student Sessions, those were online open houses essentially. And those included faculty from all 10 departments. And they were very labor intensive, but highly well received by the faculty and the students that attended them. But in total, you can see that we had 606 unique students that attended one of these options, and almost 1,000 between the on-campus and online offerings. Next slide, Lenore. So in order to pull this off, it wasn't just admissions by a long shot. We had to work with all of the offices around campus, and I'm not going to get into the weeds on all of these, but if you just look at the cross section, within our division, we've got athletics, our campus centers, and financial aid and marketing. We're partnering on all these activities. We're using our Slate CRM to collect lead inquiries for these folks. We're doing targeted communications. We're working with the campus centers to set up individual appointments where they're hosting students on site as well in the communities. Our financial aid office is using it as well to schedule financial aid appointments to complete FAFSA. And our IT services, I work every week. I have standing meetings with John Taylor's group to review how we're using our Slate system and how it's interfacing with Colleague and how we can make that better and how we can make our records be more clean as the two systems talk with each other. And then last but not least, when we look at Suny, they have poured a ton of resource into helping the community college sector out. So they've done advertising campaigns, the Stay Near Go Far. This is the second year in a row now where they canvassed the state and they drove leads to our campuses. They worked with the Rochester Central School District to drive leads to FLCC and GCC and MCC. And one of the things that I don't have listed here is they've been running virtual fairs all year as well. And all this stuff is free for us. We just have to pay attention and work with them and do a good job collecting the leads and basically helping the students out that they bring to our doorstep. So next step, Lenore. So the Slate CRM, I think when we were talking earlier, and Trustee Mahalik was, asked a pretty good question about, how do we talk to individual groups? And I cannot underestimate the importance of Slate. It is the cornerstone of all of the recruitment that we're doing at the college right now. But more than that, it allows us to do the things that we need to do. So for instance, when we're working through social media channels, when we have targeted advertising campaigns, we drive students to landing pages that are custom. Within those landing pages, there are custom requests for information forms that when a student fills it out, that builds a student record in Slate for us, and we know who they are right away. It's also the same system that we're using for applications. So we can build a record of activity for students, and we know what's going on with them. We know how they came to our doorstep. We know if we met them at a high school or if they came to campus. We know the lead campaigns that they're working on. We know when they applied. And then in addition to that, we know information about them. What are they interested in? What do they want to study? Is it athletics? We have custom drip campaigns that we've built for these folks. And this past year was the first time we've done this. We've stood up individual campaigns for parents, guardians, guidance counselors. We've got programmatic specific communications that are going out to students. We've got our campus center information that's going out specifically to students. And then probably the most important thing though, is that the life cycle of a student, whether they're in inquiry, whether they've applied, whether they've been admitted, whether or not they've registered for courses, all the way up to their first day, we know where they're at and we can intervene and we can provide content to them that is just for them, for their interest at that point in time, for how they're working with the college. That is what the consumer demands right now. And we're getting so much better at doing this. And our three groups together, it's very powerful. And it's going to be very exciting to see where it takes moving forward, because as Kristen mentioned, we've got 2 years of baseline data now in Slate. So we can use our dollars more wisely. we can become even more strategic, and we can have even better record integrity between our systems. So it's a very powerful tool, and I'm very happy that the college invested in it. And I look at that sheet, I'm friends and I'm colleagues with all the other community college directors of admissions. If you look at that chart, year-to-date data, there is a strong correlation of those colleges that are at the top of that list that have slate and the ones that don't. And the results are bearing out for all of our campuses, and it's very apparent. So last slide, Lenore, thank you. So as we move forward, we're still, every 6 months, we're investigating our mix of activities. And this is what we've set out this fall at. And you can see that just by sheer numbers, we've got a greater number of activities that we're doing face-to-face. This is what the consumer demands. This is what we're working on. We've scaled down our online events. And the more exciting thing in the lower right-hand corner is that I'm very excited about is that we're finally back out and about in the community. And we're finally able to do that traditional grassroots face-to-face in the districts with students helping folks out. And just a quick snapshot of numbers, this fall alone in the past 2 months, we have visited 126 high schools. We've attended 25 college fairs. So that's a very exciting thing for us. It's how admissions folks are built. It's in our DNA. So while we're doing all this different activity, that face-to-face work, you can't replace it. And it's how we're helping out our guidance counselors in our service area serve the population that needs us the most. So I'll pause there. I know that was quite a bit to run through very quickly, but I'll open the floor to questions.
Well done, Matt. Questions for Matthew?
Thank you, George.
Donna, is that Ian? Yes, please, Donna.
So Matthew, I'm interested, this is not exactly what you were talking about this evening, but when you talked about getting back out into the community more and that direct connection. I've heard other community colleges talk about the success they've had with selecting a high school, going in for seniors, giving everyone their FLCC admissions letter right there, with some swag, and then, seeing if anybody comes through. They found it to be highly successful. I'm just curious what your thoughts are about that, and are there plans to do that? I couldn't respond because I wasn't clear on what we were doing.
So we have not implemented that strategy. But it's funny, the first one that did it out of the box in New York was my alma mater, was Broome Community College. So it was funny that it came across our plate. I don't know, I'm of two minds of that one. There's some power there from an advertising campaign. But I think it's more powerful to work with the students who want us, because we're responding to them and we're meeting them in the middle, and we're not turning it into a gimmick, which I don't use that word lightly. But it's almost like the private schools. When I worked in that sector, we would send out scholarships to people and say, because you attend this school, if you're admitted, you're going to get $5,000. And there's a lack of authenticity there. And let's be honest, in the world we live in now, and the students of the age in high school, authenticity is the number one thing they need. And they'll sniff it out in 2 seconds. So I think there might be a place for that, but we'd have to do it very carefully.
Thank you. I appreciate that insight.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah. Thank you. Of those 1,000 touches that you had online and in person, how many of those turned around and actually enrolled?
So the number's close to 80%.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
Well, it's partly too, though, it's a matter of this past year, what we found out, we had a decrease in applications, about 10%. But what we saw was our yield rate went up. So the folks during a pandemic that were seeking us out, that wanted to visit, that wanted to meet with us online, that wanted to apply, they were more real. And also they weren't beating the bushes down. In the middle of a pandemic, you're not doing your tour of the Northeast to go visit a bunch of places. You are applying, you're getting in, and then you're going to see whether or not it's the right fit. So I caution we probably will never see those rates again unless we really ratchet up our strategy, because it's just the, I guess, the intent and nature of the student this year more than ever was way more self-directed in terms of what they were going to do.
Thank you.
Chairman Martin, do you have a question?
I do, and really it's a collective comment to all three of you here in this strategic thought presentation. And a current example that can be attributed really to all of you is, 2 days ago in our email in our inbox was highlighted by the e-news, and really a splendid profile of our new student trustee, Sophie. So congratulations. I'm not sure who deserves the credit for that, but that's certainly an example of what's been talked about. And front and center, very top of the e-news was our new student trustee. So thanks for not only that PR, but thanks for that continued communication.
And what we'll probably do is give Matt that story about Sophie so that he can put it into one of his newsletters.
Well, it'll be interesting too, because Sophie works for admissions, so she'll probably be giving tours to any students that is a campus. So all the worlds will connect. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. That's great. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much. If there's no other questions,
Yeah, everyone's watching it.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn. If somebody would move. Santa will move. Second.
This is Joan, I second.
Joan will second. Thank you. Take a vote. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Yes.
Aye.
Raise your hand. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Trustee Cass, I cede the floor to you.
Thank you, Trustee Cushman. I'd like to call the November 3rd meeting of the Board of Trustees Finance and Facilities Committee to order. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? There being none, Adam?
I'm sorry, Don, I did have a question.
Okay.
It's really a procedural one. I noticed that George Cushman made a motion, and I think it would be correct, someone can correct me, that only committee members should be making motions. Thoughts? Jeff?
I believe that to be true, Barb. That's a good point. And it's not that other trustees can't attend and certainly comment,
Right.
but for the minutes, I think that's a good point of order.
Okay.
Thank you, Barb. Okay, Adam?
Yeah, good afternoon, early evening. First, I'd like to update you on the fiscal year 2020-2021. This past Friday, October 29th, our controller officially closed the books on 2021. Did not go as smoothly as we would have liked, resulting in a long Friday for her and her staff. In addition, the fiscal year 2021 audit kicked off this week. Both of these activities put a heavy workload on the controller's office. And I say this because I had hoped to have a final fiscal year financial report showing actual revenues to expenses for last fiscal year. But due to the delayed in the closing and required reports by Bonadio, we have not had the bandwidth to do so. However, we will be working on these reports and I'll have it to the Board of Trustees as well as President Nye very shortly. Overall, at a high level, the expenses for last year were $46,157,501. That is against a budget of $48,066,085. If you recall, last board meeting, you all had approved an increase in the overall budget to just over 48 million. So we did come under that, just shy of 2 million. And we did overestimate that new budget request just from the uncertainties of the expenses that would be hitting the books from COVID, the stimulus funding. So moving on to the September financial report, I will share my screen real quickly. Bear with me, I got a new computer at about 4 o'clock today and I'm still trying to figure it out. Okay, so I will just take a hand motion from those that can see it real quick.
Yes.
You can see it? Okay, great. So this is the September 30th, 2021 financial report. This report represents 8.2% of the fiscal year. Year to date, which is roughly 30 days in this instance, we've expensed about 6.3%. When comparing to the previous year, there are three figures that do stand out. The first one is tuition and fees. Because of year-end close activities at the time of the creation of this report, we had not realized tuition for the fiscal year yet. Our deferred revenue from tuition and fees is roughly 7.9 million at this point. Compare that to last year, we're fairly on target to meet the same benchmarks. The second category is salary. Last fiscal year, there was a payout to employees who separate underneath the voluntary separation agreement. That totaled about $420,000 last year. If we back out those one-time payments, salaries for this year fall in line with previous year. The last one is the equipment. This time last year, there was no realized expenses for September 30th. This year, we have about $139,000 in those expenses. One thing you will notice on this report is I've removed the projected year-to-date and the final column, which was in the 2021 report. I did this for two reasons. First and foremost, the calculation was in some cases inaccurate by projecting year-end total expenses to be less than current actuals. This projection was based on a total percent of budget spent in the previous year, and especially last fiscal year, that may not be the best method for forecasting. Second, this simplifies the report. We can compare year-to-date percentage of budget. As I mentioned earlier, we're about 8.2% to the percent of fiscal year complete to gauge fiscal position. So we've expensed 6.3% compared to the 8.2% of the fiscal year complete. And finally, my staff is working on returning to a financial report that provides more clarity. These reports are similar to the reports that you have received several years ago. Insuri is currently working on the September report for informational purposes and to provide uniformity to all fiscal year reports for the fiscal year. That concludes the fiscal portion of my report. Are there any questions?
I have a question, Adam. This is Steve. HERF underneath a 2022 revenue, HERF institutional. Please remind us what HERF institutional is.
So HERF stands for Higher Education Emergency Relief Funds. And those are, again, stimulus funds that the college has received for COVID response. I do have a stimulus update, and so I can get into a little bit more detail on that in the next conversation if there's no other questions on the financial.
Sure. I just have a follow-up. So underneath the expense side, you show it as Carissa, but on the revenue side, you show it as HERF. Is that how the federal government has labeled it, I'm guessing?
So HERF is the general term used. Carissa is the specific distribution of those funds at the time. So Carissa was, I believe, HERF 2 stimulus funding. HERF 3 is ARP. I forget the exact acronym for it, but HERF is the general term for federal stimulus funds.
And then one final question, the CARES money, we expense all of that in fiscal year 2021. If I remember, we were required to do that, true?
That is correct.
Okay. Thanks, Adam. That's all I had.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so I will move on to a stimulus update, and again, I'll share my screen. So this is a, let's see if I can fit it in the screen. Hold on. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this provides a little bit more breakdown of those various funds, and you'll see up here we have the CARES funding, which we had all expensed. We received 1.46 million. We've spent 1.46. The Carissa funding, and that we still have about, as on this spreadsheet, we have about 1.2 million of that funding left. And then the third round of stimulus funding underneath HERF is this ARP, and bear with me, there's so many acronyms running around, I forget what that exactly stands for. But underneath ARP, we've received $4.965 million. So these are the various pools of funding we've received. And on the left-hand side here, you will see some very high-level categories of how we've spent that funding. And for that first round in the CARES Act, we had various categories where these funds were spent out, most of them on student refunds, in COVID-related expenses, and those have all been expensed. We get down into some of these others, like the Stimulus 2+2 Task Force. This is being led by Dr. Ortloff, and there's a committee that kind of gets together and puts forth various projects and purchases underneath the CARES Act. So this one goes down into great detail. Same thing with this IT high flex infrastructure. John Taylor has initially requested $850,000 to increase our technology on campus to meet the various modalities for instruction, mostly high flex classrooms. On this spreadsheet, it does indicate that we sent $575,000. We still have about $274,000 to realize as expenses. I do know that we have allocated all that entire $850,000. So what this spreadsheet is just kind of portraying is what we've actually realized against the books. What I am doing now is I'm taking all these information. So there's a very detailed spreadsheet on the IT high flex infrastructure. There's a spreadsheet on the Stimulus 2+2 working group that we have, and merging all these documents into one so that we have a more detailed look at what our fiscal status is of all these stimulus fundings. Next week, once I have all these files merged and a better picture is established of our unallocated stimulus funds, the cabinet will be meeting to discuss our approach for allocating the balance of these funds in a strategic visioning meeting. At this time, I would estimate that the remaining balance for unallocated purchases or projects is roughly $5 million. Are there any questions on the stimulus status?
So yes, I do have one. If I'm reading this line correctly, the chargeback rate increase. We addressed 410,000 underneath CARES, Carissa about 409.
No, so what this column here, column B, is just the allocated funds, whether it's under CARES, Carissa, or ARP.
Okay.
The 410,000 was allocated and spent out of the Carissa funding.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Adam. Kathy, you do the facilities update?
Yes, thank you. So you should all have information very similar to what you saw last month. And when I say no changes, it sounds like nothing's happening. Things are happening. So I apologize for that if you take that literal. So I will touch on each of these very quickly, but I do want to say to Lenore and her team, thank you for the shout out pertaining to the grounds crew and the wildflowers. We had a lot of fun doing that. So thank you for that. Nursing, we are in construction for phase 2, as I talked about last time. The most exciting thing in the last week is that the steel has arrived. It arrived on the 28th. And if you drive back there, you will see some of the steel erected, and that's huge for us because that now gets us into getting the exterior done so we can get that phase 2 enclosed. We are working on, we do have the grant. We are just working through bringing a design team in, and Christine is helping me with Suny to make sure that we're doing that right and we can start the project and the design concept of that. The Wellness Center, we do have counseling and yes, and food pantry, etc. They are there. Everything is working well. We are now working hand in hand with student health so we can get them moved in during winter break. HoloLens, at the time when I wrote this, there were no changes, but the good news is last week we got 4 of the 5 monitors installed. So Professor Parker is very excited. She will have now during winter break to be able to integrate the screens, all the different screens, which will do a whole new experience for the students in there. So we feel really good about that. The electrical infrastructure, we are just waiting for paperwork to get the design going. Master plan, we have drafts and we're just waiting for some reviews, but I really am pushing to try to get an RFP out before the end of this calendar year. The EV stations, we have put in the applications and now we're in a waiting mode. And waiting is probably 3 to 6 months. So there's lots of patience. We do lots of things and then we have to wait, and that's okay. Operations, good news is we do have a new grounds person that started on Monday, and as Adam and I laugh about, he has shown up for the last 2 days, so that's good. But we are really struggling with the part-time position. We don't have any applicants. And then cleaning, we still have a cleaning position out. So we struggle with that. We were getting some applications. Actually, earlier in September, we had a slew of them, and now it's quiet again. So I'm not sure what's going on out there, but we're doing the best that we can with the staff. And the only other thing I could share is we are looking at some winter projects, some self-performing winter projects, which is some office moves and some cleaning, major cleaning, etc. Any questions for me?
I do. Hello, Kathy. This is Steve here.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Any supply chain kinds of issues? You talked about patience and waiting and so forth. Are they related to that? And if so, have you been able to identify it?
So for the construction, we've had major supply issues, actually. Strange ones. I mean, the steel actually was supposed to be here about 6 weeks ago. So that's one example. The roofing material was supposed to be here beginning of October, and we are not going to get that started. The roofing started till after Thanksgiving. So those have been a big part of the construction. And then very strange things. Example, doors, wooden doors. We had to put in temporary doors, taking from our inventory, just to get the phase 1 completed. Transmitters for the monitors. The monitors were supposed to be in August. So it continues. I think on our day-to-day operation, honestly, we're doing okay. We do have some products as simple as not yet toilet paper, because if we remember, that was a big deal before or during COVID. So we honestly, we probably overdid for some of the inventory we have. Plastic bags, garbage bags. It's not just the manufacturing, but it's getting it from point A to point B. Very similar to the general public.
So just a follow-up question then, as a result, with some of this being pushed, some of the external outdoor work, weather will be a factor as well, I'm guessing?
Weather is, and we're really, we're already thinking about having to put up, if we can't get all that steel up, how to put up some protection and some additional heat so that we can keep moving on the inside. So yes, your questions are absolutely valid. Right now, we're looking at trying to get everything enclosed by early December. And that's assuming that, November will be wonderful, and we all have lived here for many years and we know it won't. So we are looking at some different options for that.
Okay. Thanks, Kathy, very much. Appreciate your report.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, Kathy.
Thank you.
Adam, we have 2 informational items.
Yeah, so the first informational item is for bid acceptance of a custom-built concession trailer for the Conservation Department. Total cost of the trailer is $41,175. This trailer will provide base camp support to the Conservation Department during their annual field experience trips for the students. This year, they are traveling to Florida. Prior to accepting the low bid from Mohawk Valley Welding and Stainless Steel, I did meet with Conservation Department Chair John Faust to get a better understanding of the need and justification for the cost of the trailer. While the primary purpose of this trailer is for field support, allowing support staff to prepare meals, store gear and food in a safe environment, and provide a reliable water supply, there's also plans to utilize it as a recruiting tool and showcase at conferences. Our discussion satisfied my concerns, and the funding for this purchase is coming from fees generated over the years.
All right, that answers my question. Barb, did it answer yours? Thank you, Adam.
Yep. Any other questions on the trailer? The second one is just a operating fund transfer. This is just simply moving funds from one budget to another as we transferred responsibilities from the advancement department to the public relations and communications department.
Any questions? Thank you, Adam. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Got it. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Chairman
Thank
Martin.
you. Yes, well, thank you, Chairman Cass. Appreciate that. Perfect timing. We'll take a 20-minute break and we'll adjourn this meeting and begin our full meeting at 6:15. See everyone then. Thanks.
Take care of the old girl.
I'm gonna take care of the old girl. I'll be back. Keep my seat for me.
You want somebody to keep it warm for you too?
Nah, that's okay. Okay, that's okay. Oh, go ahead and start without. Annabelle takes her time on stuff. I knew you'd start without me anyway. But go ahead and start without.
That's in this room.
That's true.
George, how's your wife doing?
I'm sorry?
How's your wife doing?
Oh, Marilyn's doing great.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Hey, a
Good
quick
Hampshire,
reminder to the
right?
folks in the
Oh, yeah.
boardroom,
I am with the,
you guys are,
in the library and
you're not muted.
literacy volunteers and the association on every
Okay, folks, welcome back. Is 6:15, and again, welcome to the first Wednesday of the month of November, November 3rd. Wow.
I guess whenever Steve, you.
Oh, I just put it on, sorry. You want me to mute it?
No, it's okay.
Okay, you're on.
All set?
Also too, I
Can't-
turned off
can't
these
hear,
bright lights up here. Is that
Steve-
fine?
Steve's lips moved, but I didn't hear anything.
I'm off of mute. How about now?
Yep.
He had issues earlier when he tested it, so. He knows how to manage it.
This is up?
Yeah, we're okay. It's him. I
Okay.
think that's not.
How about that?
Yeah, because that's,
Yeah.
no, we couldn't hear him.
Oh, someone put it down. I'm
That's
sorry.
how you did the mute. Couldn't
Oh, you
find the
could just
mute.
press the green button.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was mismanagement here.
That's okay. It's usually me.
Well, we had a different system than I knew of.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, hello again to everyone. First Wednesday of the month, November 3rd. Welcome to our Board of Trustees meeting of Finger Lakes Community College. We're glad you're with us, and I'd like to call the meeting to order here at 6:16 p.m. Any new business from the trustees or from the president? Anything at all? Hearing none, we do have a full agenda in front of us. This is our portion of the meeting for community and public comment. The Board of Trustees values input from our members of our college community, and we encourage your participation. If you please would identify yourselves here at this portion of the meeting, and we traditionally allow up to 5 minutes for comments, and we certainly reserve time if necessary to go over. Would anyone like to share their comments with the Board of Trustees at this time? Anyone on the phone? Anyone there in person? Public comment. Going once? Going twice? Okay, we'll move on to the consent items. We have a total of 4, and you can see them there in front of you. They are the committee and board meeting minutes, as well as the 3 administrative appointments, which we heard about earlier. I'd entertain, please, a motion and a second. Please identify yourself. Thank you, Don. So moved by Don, and a second, please. Thank you, Barb. Any comments or questions on the consent items that we have? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carried. Thank you. Old business. Any old business from the trustees they'd like to bring forward? Hearing none, my chair's report really is in reference to the upcoming NYCCT conference. I plan on traveling the Thruway East here sometime tomorrow for the 2-day conference, Friday and Saturday. I know Donald will be there. I know our president and I will be on a panel. I won't go further than that since they both might be reporting a little bit out on that, but I'll be joining them for the couple days in Saratoga Springs. So that's all I have for the moment. And I'd like to move on to our president and President Nye, your report, please.
Thank you, Trustee Martin. I'm going to be brief. I'll highlight a few things from our report, and then I have some new news. I do want to let you know that we had a very good visit with Gallo Wines with Louis Nossi and Jonathan Kaiser and a number of their teams, both at the Viticulture Center and the Victor Campus Center. And it's encouraging that they want to model at a smaller scale the support they provide to Modesto Community College adjacent to their last factory in Modesto, California, which is the largest in the world, so that they can get support. And we'll see where that goes. We have to get back together with them in December. And I just want to thank all the people that are involved with that visit at 2 different locations, 2 different meals, to be able to establish a relationship with Gallo. I want to thank Latoya Collins for the last-ditch effort that she did. It was very commendable to get 15 students into the Young Entrepreneur Program. The week prior, it looked like it wasn't going to go, and she did a wonderful job keeping that going. And so there's 15 students It'll be hybrid and it'll be in cooperation with Cayuga Community College. And Cayuga Community College is funding a good portion of the cost for the event as well, since we did last year. So thank you to LaToya, and looking forward to some great activities that will keep the board up in touch with, because I would encourage you to go to, or whether it's virtual or hybrid or whatever, to see what happens. I did give you a link to an article that has a recognition of one of our students from the program. And if you haven't read it, I highly encourage you to read it, and we'll go from there, see how things go this year. I do want to highlight, other than that, the legislative advocacy, especially for the trustees that are getting ready to go to the NYCCT conference. What I provided you is exactly what all 30 college presidents, community college presidents have asked for our ask for legislative season. And those are the 100% floor at 1920 and keeping 100% floor, because at where we're at right now, we don't get to keep that floor. And that 2.6% or 1.7%, whatever it ends up being finally, that Carol briefed, and in terms of FTE, we will lose that. Okay, so it's important that we get that floor, because the 4 years have the floor. And then second, something that was taken away long before any of our times, except maybe Jones, and that is, and Jeff would know about this a little bit, but it's the funding for workforce development. We have to cobble together our resources for workforce development, which is another important part of our college, through grants and trying to just make things get by in terms of how our workforce development works. We don't try to make a profit, but you're just trying to get by, and you have to do it through grants and so forth. It's important we begin this push in this environment we have to be able to have funding for credit for workforce. So you can see where it's talking about the different types of hours that we look at. Actually, it doesn't have that in here, but that a certain number of hours would equate to a certain number of funding in terms of an actual program that gets funded. So that wording is exactly what we have, and we'll get more out to you later, so that when you can communicate, that's the language we want to use. I have three things that I would like to highlight, not in my report. First, in terms of facilities, CMAQ is going to expand their facilities and put in another temporary, a tent permanent type of structure, $2 million operation for their VIP operations that hopefully may be available next summer. And if it is, we'd like to negotiate our usage of it during other times for certain activities. I also want to let you know that New York State Department of Labor reached out to us, and they're interested in using our Newark campus site for one of their labor career centers, which would be excellent to get a connection between our workforce development activities to our to the P-Tech activities and to our college at the Newark campus. Plus, it'll provide more rent to the campus, which is a good thing, and so you get a good connection. So we're really happy that they reached out to us. Deb Korsner and Kathy Ahern are on the lead in terms of working with Department of Labor to see what we can do in that location. And finally, it's not out yet, but I received a note from one of the folks from RBJ and the Rochester Business Commerce. And apparently, when it comes out, FLCC is going to be listed as the #3 employer in Ontario County in terms of size and activity, which is excellent. And the reason I say that, I mentioned it to the county administrator today, that it fits into down the road. We still need to get an economic impact survey done that shows what the value is that the college brings to the county in a way that works for both of us. And the county administrator is interested in doing that. We have some devious thoughts on how we might be able to get that accomplished down the road. But looking forward to getting that new RBJ journal out with the lists and actually see that in writing. And that's my report, Trustee Martin. Thank you. And if there's any questions, happy to provide info.
Questions of Dr. Nye? Okay, thank you for that report. We appreciate it, and we appreciate the written report as well. We'll go straight down the list here in terms of our committee and liaison reports, and start with Trustee Partial and our student trustee report. Thank you for the written report, Sophie, but maybe you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for being so welcoming. My first month has been really fun and a really good introduction. Really grateful for Joan for being my mentor
We talked on the phone a little while and I asked a bunch of questions and she was really helpful. Month of September, we had like a lot of events trying to get students involved. Month of October was sort of similar, just getting students more and more involved in the clubs that they joined. Last week we had an event called Flip and Treat, which was for Halloween, and students could dress up, and we had different like candy stations around the school where students could go and visit like offices like the Wellness Center. I work in the incubator, the Science Tutoring Center, and we had some candy in there. So students came in, we were able to like show them around the resources that we have available for them. That was really helpful. We also had our first diversity discussion series, which was really popular, and those are going to continue every other week for the rest of the semester. And then looking forward to November, the theater club is putting on their play, so they've been advertising that a lot. I know a couple of the people and they're really excited about that. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's terrific. Thank you. That was a marvelous report, and I really appreciate the written report. It was quite detailed, and we appreciative of that. Questions of Trustee Partial? Okay, thanks very much. Let's see, Trustee Assels, how about the Erm Audit Committee? Any report or any update since our last monthly meeting?
No, there's nothing really to report beyond what Adam said earlier.
Okay, looks like auditors are here this week, so we'll hear more probably move down the road. Okay, great. Board development, Trustee Mihalich, Trustee Santa.
We had a great meeting last week, and we're meeting again this week. And hopefully we'll have that first read available at next month's board meeting.
Okay. Any questions on the board development report? Moving to the association, Trustee Cass, thanks for the written report. Anything you'd like to add to that or highlight from the report?
Well, the thing I like to highlight, like I do quite often, is like to thank Carol for her leadership. From my position as being a mayor a long time ago, keeping things confidential is not easy. And I'm hoping that Carol's statement at the end and her leadership will do that with our new people. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Trustee Cass. Any questions of Don with regard to the association report? Alrighty, moving on to the foundation. Trustee Geis, what's going on?
Louis, is this a good time to talk about the Day of Giving or?
Yeah, you could talk about that, and I could fill in some stuff. I have another date to talk about afterwards. That's great.
Louis will give you instructions on what to do on the Day of Giving.
Okay, so the Day of Giving, so that's Giving Tuesday is November 30th. Happens all over the country. It's electronic endeavor. You'll see a lot of buildup toward that day. Our goal is going to be to earn 100 donors in one day, surpassing what we did last year, to add to all our already pretty robust fundraising totals for this year. So we're really excited about it. In fact, I saw a video today, a first draft of a video, and I think it's going to be really neat and really cool. So we're hoping everyone's going to be involved in that on November 30th. The other date, and this is very, very hot off the presses, that I will bring to your attention is Thursday, December 16th, 4 p.m. to 7. We are going to attempt to do a in-person holiday party for the college and its community. Location is to be determined. I know, but I can't tell you quite yet. Not until it's official. So just stay tuned. But I wanted you folks to get that date on your calendars now. So that's Thursday, the 16th, starting at 4 p.m. And stay tuned. You'll know shortly. That's what I have. Thank you.
Great. Trustee Geis, anything else you'd like to add to that?
No.
Okay, alrighty. Louis, I just had a question. Well, what was our roughly our tally last year on the day of caring. Maybe not so much for donors.
Yeah, Giving Tuesday was, hold on, I might have something close here. I know it was 79 donors and don't quote me, something like $5,700,
Okay.
which for us is very, very good. It's right where we should be.
Great, that's nice exposure with 79 different folks. That's terrific.
Yep.
All right, thank you both for that report. We appreciate it. NYCCT, okay. The annual conference is right in front of us. And Donna, how about a report from Trustee Mihalik?
I feel that I have shared a lot with you about ACCT, so I will spare you anything more tonight. And Steve and I will have a report for you at the next meeting after this session. So I'm very excited that you're able to join us, Steve.
Great. Well, and again, thank you for providing you and Penny both in our packet the information from the ACCT. I know we had it on screen and so forth, but it's nice to have that once again in our packet so we can look at it with some detail. Appreciate that. Okay, let's see. Student Court. Either Trustee Abraham or Trustee Cushman, either one of you. A report, please. I see there was something in writing. Anything you'd like?
The report is in your packet, and it's extremely well written because Santa beat me to the punch on it. And I think if I could make an observation, and I'd love to get Santa's impressions too. I was impressed with how quickly this group has coalesced. They've come together and they've become very, very active. They've got all the positions filled. They've gone in and done things like they've gone and inventoried every club that's ever been at FLCC to determine what should be there, what has legs and would have interest. So they're doing a tremendous amount of work to get people involved, and it was very impressive, and I think it's going to pay dividends in this day where we're having so much of this COVID fatigue. So well done, Santa. I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, you covered it. They're a very creative group.
That's it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you both. Appreciate that. That completes our reports, and please bear with me here. We have 2 executive sessions, and I do need to read this for the record and for our public recording. Executive session 1 to discuss matters regarding collective negotiation pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, New York Public Officers Law, Article 7, Section 105, letter E as in Edward. The second executive session discussed matters regarding the employment history of a particular person or matters leading to the employment of a particular person pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, New York Public Officer Law, Article 7, Section 105, letter F as in Frank. If I could please have a motion and a second to enter into both of these executive sessions. Please, a motion by one trustee and a second by another.
I so move, Barb Hamlin.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Joan, thank you very much. Moved by Barb Hamlin, second by Joan Geis. Comments or questions? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions? Okay, we'll see each other on the next link for executive session. Thank you.
You folks are really moving fast.
You know,
We're getting back to normal.
yeah, we got it.
Hello?
Hi, Penny.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, I was just checking on things.
See if we're still here. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay, looks like we're getting just about everyone, or slowly. Here we go. I see Don, I see Jeff. Thank you, Penny and Rick, for hanging in there with us. I see the boardroom.
Joan and Barb.
Joan, Barb, and Rich. No, Rich is in the
Yep.
boardroom, sorry.
Rich is in the boardroom.
Yeah, so Joan, Barb, and Donna. I see Barb joining us.
The way the screen separates there.
It's really, it's better than, if you remember the retreat, it's getting better in terms of.
Yeah.
I see Barb Hamlin. Hello, Barb. We'll give Donna and Joan a quick minute here. We do have a quorum. So I'm going to take the chair's liberty here since we do have a quorum, and Donna and Joan might join us. Please, Trustee Cushman, go ahead and talk about your retreat if you would.
It's the Ed quarterly meeting, and it just is it was a follow-on to the conversation we were having earlier, but we were gonna have the two leads for the book club present on some of the challenges from their perspective. And based on our earlier conversation, it'll be an interesting session. So anybody who wants to learn more about the book club on guided pathways and the challenges from faculty perspective, that would be welcome you to join us for that.
Well, that's terrific. I've seen the agenda. It really does look quite interesting. I do plan on attending. So thanks for that. That reminder.
When is it? I haven't seen the agenda.
George?
You would ask that. When is it?
I believe it's the 22nd of November.
That could be right, Monday morning.
Yeah, 8:30.
So Penny, I think, Penny, you're on the line here. If you would see that every trustee receives a copy of that agenda, as well as the meeting notice and so forth, thereby giving folks an opportunity to attend remotely or if they want in person. I'm
Okay,
reading your mind, Bob.
I don't know if I got the agenda, but I will look into it and send it out.
Yeah, it came
Oh,
out.
you know what, Penny? You did not get the agenda.
It came out.
That came from Jonathan's office. I'm pretty
Okay,
sure.
I need some help in the future, and I'm getting frustrated with this with Jonathan's office. Okay, they're supposed to go through Penny's office, so I'm gonna go to Jonathan again and state, this is a board meeting activity, it must go through Penny.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
It's sometimes, these things happen, but I wanna make sure we do the right thing, so I'll fix that
I'm
tomorrow.
pretty sure that's where it came from.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it did. I just looked it up. It came from Lori Rob.
Okay, I will explain to Jonathan again.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, thank you all. Anything else, Trustee Cushman?
No, I've spoken enough.
Any other business to bring in front of the board? Hearing or seeing none, please a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. Please a motion.
I so move. Barb Ham.
Thank you, Barb. Yep, and a second.
I'll
Come on.
second it.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a pleasant evening. Happy
Okay, good night
Thanksgiving.
all.
Thanks for the discussion.
Yep, bye-bye.
I'm encouraged to know that we're gonna rename Rundell before I check out.
Well, you should see, Chris is like, geez, this was done to take advantage of the college, is almost his quote.
That's fine. Thanks for turning to me.